What is up guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this series we are exploring the industries of Sri Lanka that support and develop this beautiful island nation. And in this video we are going to be taking you from the north to the south to show you an industry that we believe has the greatest potential for the economy and the people of this nation. So to tell us more about the IT-BPM industry, we have with us the CEO of Informate as well as the chairman of SLASSCOM, the National Chamber for the Industry, Jehan Perinpanayagam. So Jehan, could you please tell us a little bit about the IT-BPM industry as well as the current state of it in Sri Lanka?
Thank you very much indeed, Shenelle. So the IT-BPM industry is among the top 5 export revenue earners for Sri Lanka, and as at March 2023, it was ranked by EDB as the 3rd largest export revenue earner for the country. It encompasses nearly 144,000 workforce and accounts for nearly $2 billion in export revenue earnings. So the goals of the industry are to be $5 billion in export revenue earnings, a workforce of 200,000, and also to power 1,000 startups.
Yes.
With that, we've recently added the aspiration to be the world's first green IT-BPM destination. So it's a key industry for the Sri Lankan economy. It provides valuable export revenue earnings, provides white-collar employment for several thousand. It's an equal opportunity employer. If you look at the BPM segment, nearly 50% are women. And if you look at the IT-BPM industry together, it's about 35%. There are opportunities for people with disability, for people to return from taking a hiatus from work back into the industry. It's an industry that currently serves some of the biggest brand names in the world from Sri Lanka. So it's a hugely exciting industry. It's an industry that the government and the president have prioritized and will be key to our recovery.
So Jehan, for someone who doesn't know what BPM is, could you just expand on what that really stands for?
Sure, absolutely. So it was previously known as the BPO industry, or business process outsourcing. The industry is now known as business process management, which is a more acceptable term, and now it's also being referred to as global services industry. Right. And it's an IT-enabled service. It is information technology and the internet that enable this industry to come into being. And very simply, it means wherever there's talent in the world, you can have that work being done in that part of the world, and there is no requirement for physical proximity. So it means that accounting work can be done in Sri Lanka, your calls can be answered in India, in Philippines, your legal work can be done in South Africa. Wherever there is talent, you can access talent around the world. And it's not about outsourcing for costs only, whilst cost there is an advantage through arbitrage. It also enables you to access the best talent around the world, and for countries and companies to collaborate across the globe. So business process management services could include outsourced accounting, outsourced call centers, outsourced legal and medical work, architectural drawings, engineering work. So there's a wide variety of services that can be done offshore, and it's a huge industry in India. It's an industry that is growing in Philippines, and I think there's an enormous potential for Sri Lanka in the BPM industry.
Is there a difference at this point in time between BPO and BPM? Or are they now, is it just a name that has now evolved to BPM?
It's primarily a name because the word outsourcing has some negative connotations.
Right.
So business process management, but it's also to reflect a higher level of involvement by the service provider. So you are not only outsourcing a set of steps, you're outsourcing an entire process. Right. And the service provider is responsible for managing that process for you. And service providers go into a lot of detail. They go into detailed documentation. They give recommendations on process, best practices, automation. So there's a lot of ideas and a lot of positive feedback going back to the customer, rather than just handling a set of activities for a labor arbitrage.
Right. So it's safe to say that now it's beyond outsourcing. Now it's, like you said, you're not doing it for cost anymore. Some of the best talent and some of the best service that you can, best practices you can get are in these locations.
Absolutely.
Right, I see. So the industry has set a very ambitious goal of 5 billion USD by 2030. So what are some of the plans that you have in place to achieve this goal, and what is the support that you need from a national framework to do so as well?
So from a SLASSCOM standpoint, we've been working very closely with successive governments and with government bodies like BOI, EDB, ICT, with the universities, and all of them have been huge supporters and have been very, very supportive of the goals of the industry. Few things that we need to prioritize. One is in terms of country branding. Now, A.T. Kearney calls Sri Lanka a hidden gem for outsourcing, uniquely positioned to offer highly skilled talent. Now, we need to make this gem, and Sri Lanka's industry is just that. We need to make it known to the world. There is some great work being done in Sri Lanka. These are for clients like HSBC, for British Telecom, for Amazon, for Google, for some of the best companies in the world. But this fact is little known, so we need to do a lot more in terms of telling that story, creating awareness around the world. And we have this brand for the IT-BPM industry. It's called IOI, the Island of Ingenuity. So we've planned a series of awareness campaigns to take this brand name to the world. Ceylon tea is well known, our tourism is well known, but the Island of Ingenuity still has work to be done. So number one is branding. Number two is talent. Now, if we are to almost double our workforce in few years, we need to have the supply of talent. And for that, we need to work very closely with academia. We need to work with universities, both state and non-state, and other bodies like vocational training, and even for advanced level for students around the country to have awareness of this industry, to have the base skills, including information technology, good communication skills, so that we have a future-ready workforce. Right? So talent is number two. Number three is in terms of policy framework, the enabling environment to enable companies who are interested to come and set up easily. And we've had some great success stories. I mentioned HSBC, they have 3,000 people here. More recently, Ernst & Young relocated their global delivery center to Sri Lanka. So the enabling policy environment to make Sri Lanka an attractive choice for large companies to come and set up here. Those would be some of the priorities.
So from what you're saying, it sounds to me like that a lot of these bigger companies, well-known established companies, want to relocate some parts of their services in Sri Lanka and other parts of the world. So would that mean for young people who are looking for the best opportunities, perhaps going abroad and trying to get jobs in these companies might not actually be the best bet, since they're looking to bring the jobs to Sri Lanka, for example? Would you say that there is now a growing opportunity for young people to get very good jobs with international companies, or at least working with international companies in Sri Lanka?
Absolutely. We just concluded the Colombo IT-BPM week, and that was one of the messages that we had to the young people, that you can actually work for global giants, for international companies right here in Sri Lanka, earn dollars for yourself and for the country, whilst enjoying the comforts of home, the lower costs of living compared to some of the global companies. And mind you, a lot of the global companies are also facing challenges. They are facing recession, they are facing rising costs. So you can enjoy the privileges of being in Sri Lanka, of being at home, and work for some of these global giants.
Absolutely. Jehan, what are the things that Informate specializes in when it comes to the certain services that you provide these companies?
So Informate, if I can share a little bit of the story, was the first shared services in Sri Lanka, set up 18 years ago. It was a subsidiary of John Keel's Holdings PLC, and our initial mandate was to provide accounting services to the subsidiaries of the JKH Group.
Right.
And that was our mandate. Over a period of time, we've added on new services. So finance and accounting remains at our core, but we've also added HR outsourcing, data entry, shipping documentation, customer help desk, process mapping, image annotation. So a wide variety of back office services, but finance and accounting remains at our core.
So we've actually visited your rural BPM as well, and we have plans to visit one in the future as well. And now we're here at Orion City, which is a wonderful facility that you have here. You have about 200 staff here working as well. What has the journey of Informate been like so far throughout the years, coming to this stage?
So we started with 60 people. Our first office was in Union Place, and we've grown steadily since then. So today we have 500 plus people, and there are very aggressive growth plans. We are occupying two very world-class facilities in Orion City. We also have our head office in the historic Mackinac building. And like you said, we were the first to pioneer the concept of rural BPO. So we are very proud that we have 3 rural centers, one in Jaffna, in Mahavilachi and Sinigama. The youngest of these just turned 10 earlier this year. The oldest, Mahavilachi, has completed 15 years. And 50% of the John Keel's accounting work is handled in these 3 centers. These centers are not owned by Informate, but there is a unique associate-owned model, which was done in partnership with the Foundation for Advancing Rural Opportunities. So each of the associates working there are co-owners in that legal entity, and they subcontract as a service provider to Informate. So we have the 3 rural centers, we have 3 world-class facilities. We are growing, so our goal is to be 1,000 plus people in the next 15 to 18 months. We currently have 75% of our revenue as third party, meaning it's outside the John Keel's group. So today we have clients around the world, from Australia, Sweden, Norway, UK, US, Saudi Arabia. So it's a global BPM serving some of the biggest brand names in the world.
Brain drain and labor mobilization seem to be buzzwords in Sri Lanka at the current moment. Would you say that this industry could be a solution for this?
So Sri Lanka, historically, if you look at our IT-BPM industry, compared to some of the other countries that offer these services, has had lower attrition rates. If you look at our industry overall, it was around 13 to 15% attrition rates, which is very much lower than what you would find in some of the other countries. Last year was a challenge for a lot of us because we had unusual levels of migration and unusual levels of attrition. And the average for the industry went up to about 25-26%. For the BPM, it was about 32%. We are starting to see that attrition slowing down as the country's situation improves and hope returns. But there is no getting away from the fact that brain drain is happening and it is a challenge. We are losing some of our middle management, some of our best young talent, and that's always a shame. But there are solutions, and we at SLASSCOM, we are hopeful because Sri Lanka has a great talent pool all across the island. And if you look at the Sri Lankan cricket team, they became world beaters when they started tapping into the talent around the country.
Absolutely.
And we have nearly zero attrition in the 3 centers that I mentioned. So the attrition outside the Western province is much less. There's some great talent that we hope to harness, that we hope to develop. And so we need to develop new talent pools to fill the gap that has opened up. That requires some work, it requires some capacity building, it requires some fast-track training programs. But we believe we can do it. The other aspect is that we continually share updates with our people. Right? Now, if I can go back maybe a few months ago, we had a great presentation from a leading economist, and he gave his prediction on Sri Lanka. And 12 months on, we have really seen that. He said Sri Lanka will not go down the route of Venezuela or Zimbabwe for various reasons. He gave the upward plan and the timeline, and we are really seeing that happening. So Sri Lanka is a small economy that can quickly reset, and I think we have the opportunity to rebuild a new, more sustainable, digital Sri Lanka. And so we have a generational opportunity which we must grasp. So we keep sharing the good news, if you like, with our young people, and our message to them that there is hope. there is hope in Sri Lanka. So we are optimistic, and like you said, this industry is an industry that can enable people to very quickly scale up, start earning much higher wages, start serving some of the big brand names around the world. And it's a huge opportunity really for young people to learn world-class processes, get exposed to some of the biggest companies in the world, and really equip themselves with world-class skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I think especially when it comes to young people, it's about getting that message to them. So we're hoping that sharing this video will also
Absolutely,
help.
absolutely.
Achieving sustainable economic development has become a key objective for everyone. So in that sense, what would you say that this industry and Informate, how well are you positioned for this?
The world is really taking note that this is our planet and it's the only planet that we have, and that we are facing an existential crisis at this moment. So our parent company, John Keel's group, has been prioritizing this for well over a decade. And I think the world and corporate Sri Lanka is really catching on. This is a very, very important part. And you also see around the world, it is corporate leaders and corporates who are leading the charge. Our president has outlined the vision for Sri Lanka as to build a green economy, and we absolutely endorse and support that. And at SLASSCOM, we've shared the vision to be the world's first green IT-BPM destination. I think there is immense potential. So some of the things that we have done is we've trained our entire board and GC, and we've shared material for all our companies on how they can start their ESG journey. We've made available a starter pack. We've spoken to and presented to our startups a program called Start Right. We've made training programs available for the entire IT-BPM workforce. It's on SLASSCOM Academy. It's free of charge. One of our companies made their policies, their entire ESG policies, available to all of the member companies so that they could adopt it on their own. We have training programs on different aspects of ESG. Right? So we want to sensitize and create awareness amongst our entire industry. We collaborate with the UN Resident Coordinator's Office and several other bodies. And we've rolled out a set of standards based on some of the international best practices like GRI reporting, which is customized for the IT-BPM industry. So those are some of the initiatives that we've taken. We've encouraged the switch to renewable-based energy. We've encouraged other things like on employee health and well-being, on biking to work, and several other initiatives on the employee mental well-being and health and wellness in general. So from an Informate standpoint, there are 3 areas that we are championing. One is to be carbon neutral by 2025. So we have started measuring our carbon footprint. We are taking measures to reduce that. We've also taken initiatives to plant trees to offset our carbon footprint. So we've done over 2,000 trees that we have planted. We're just starting off. We want to double or triple that in coming months. That's on the environment side. Then in terms of our employee health and well-being, we have a series of initiatives on physical and mental well-being. Just last week, we had a lecture to the entire staff on mental health and mental well-being. And on the social side, we have, of course, our flagship project, the Rural BPO Initiative, which we continue to support well over a decade. And we've also started working with children's charity with a great project where we are working with Child Action Lanka to equip some of their kids with career and life skills. And we're very proud that we have employed 3 of them. And hopefully we'll employ many more of them in coming months and years. Right? So on the environment, we have projects on the employee health and well-being, and on the social side.
Am I correct to assume that this industry is very low impact to the environment? Is that a correct statement?
For the most part, because you don't have manufacturing, you don't have large production process, raw materials coming in, you don't have waste, right? So to that extent, it is
service-based.
Absolutely. But having said that, there are elements which contribute to the carbon footprint. if you look at our data centers, if you look at electricity usage, and there is some study that by 2050, 14% of the greenhouse emissions will be from data centers and from our industry. So that's an aspect that we need to be mindful of. So we are encouraging our companies to switch to renewables. The other aspect is in terms of e-waste. So that's also something that we need to be mindful of.
What are some of the challenges that the BPM industry in Sri Lanka are facing, and what can we as Sri Lankans who are living here and abroad do to aid the industry?
So one aspect that has suffered in recent months and years is the brand name of Sri Lanka and its standing as a service provider. People have legitimate concerns on the sustainability, on the business continuity, on the risk, right? However, if you see over the last 36 months of COVID and the economic crisis, our industry has been absolutely resilient. We found very creative ways to ensure, and all our customers said that we did not miss a beat when it came to service delivery. In fact, some of them said service levels met or exceeded pre-pandemic levels, right? So we are very confident that we can provide absolutely uninterrupted services. We have very strong business continuity measures. However, the mindset and the perception internationally
Has to be updated.
Has to be updated.
Yeah.
People need to be aware that things are humming in Sri Lanka. If you were to visit here, right, you would really get a lot of confidence. So my encouragement is check out Sri Lanka, explore, because it really has world-class talent. All the studies indicate that it's about 20% less expensive than competing destinations. Etikani in 2019 ranked Sri Lanka first in terms of financial attractiveness for IT-BPM. And you see the companies who have come here, like London Stock Exchange, WNS, IFS, and several of these global giants, they have recommitted to not only maintaining but growing Sri Lanka, because they see this talent as one of the best in the world. So my encouragement to those listening is to explore what you can get from Sri Lanka. Visit, see some of the companies, see for yourself, speak to some of the people who have already moved here. I was privileged to meet the IFS board some weeks ago. We had a Nordic delegation coming down. They're absolutely bowled over, absolutely impressed with what they have seen here. And to the Sri Lankan community living overseas, a lot of you are holding leading positions in corporates. We encourage you, a way that you can help Sri Lanka sustainably is to send work here. And I was very pleased to see when I visited Australia last year that our diaspora is very, very keen, more so than ever before, to help Sri Lanka, right, to spread the good word, right, and to encourage the sending of transfer of work to Sri Lanka. Right? It's a win-win proposition. It's going to help Sri Lanka, it's going to help retain talent here, and it will help you.
Absolutely. So then if I'm not mistaken, you said that we exceeded pre-pandemic goals as well. So does that mean Sri Lankans perform even better under pressure?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. So the resilience and the spirit of innovation that exists in our people is absolutely remarkable. And they will find a way to ensure, and also we have that sense of service, of responsibility, of not letting people down, right, of ensuring that we deliver on what we have committed to. And that is something that our clients really appreciate. So Sri Lankans have performed very well throughout all of these challenges. And I think a lot of them who have stayed on are absolutely determined to make a national contribution, to see that we play our part in turning around the country.
And in terms of what can really aid the industry, another aspect would be is country marketing or brand placement, or getting the message of what's really going on in Sri Lanka to the West and the places that these services would be really helpful to.
Absolutely. We need to spread the word. We need to share the many successful case studies around the world. We need to encourage inward missions for people to come down here and see for themselves. So there is a series of outward missions planned by the government, and SLASSCOM is very keen to support those. We are having a IOI launch in London on the 29th of November with the Sri Lankan High Commission. Hopefully we'll have members of the international press, and we'll have testimonials from several British companies that are using Sri Lankan talent.
Yes.
And we are optimistic that we can take the good news of Sri Lanka's immense talent and capability to the world.
So something we're definitely seeing is in Sri Lanka, because of the current situation with the world, is that there's a rising number of freelance workers, younger people as well as older people, who are choosing this lifestyle. But if someone was to go beyond freelance and look at this industry, use their time as a freelancer to join this industry, what kind of path would they have to choose? What kind of qualifications would they have to get to really, be successful in doing so?
Sure. So there are many paths for people in this industry. Some of them are doing great work as individuals.
Yeah.
I met one of them over the weekend. He's working for a Swiss company and very happy working on his own.
Yeah.
He's able to manage his time. So if that's what you would like, that's great as well. That's one particular path. The other part is to use your skills and maybe with a little bit of fine tuning to join one of these leading companies in the IT-BPM industry. So some of the things that may help you is the SLASSCOM Future Careers Bridge, which is a series of challenges which will make industry-ready professionals, which will equip you with the skills. Then you have SLASSCOM Academy, which has many programs, including soft skills development. This is content sourced from IBM and several other leading providers. World-class content, a lot of it is available free.
That's wonderful.
So there are several platforms that have world-class content which you can equip yourselves with, right, and get some of the certifications required. We also encourage you to reach out to some of the companies because a lot of them are looking for talent. So there are many paths. And overall, this industry has a lot to offer in terms of employment.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Jehan. That was very insightful and we learned a lot.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thanks to our audience.